Imagine you're on your deathbed, about to take your last breath, or you have 24 hours to live. What's important? What do you wish that you had done? Do you have any regrets? Is there anywhere where you think that your life wasn't a success because you didn't get to experience it? That's what's important right now. This is the message of the Gold Santa Muerte. It is having lived a life that has material and spiritual balance. There are 2 blog articles on the Gold Altar website. One of them is titled Create. There is an excellent worksheet that helps us to be clear on what our wishes for life are, so that when we take our last breath, we feel that we have truly lived and that we have embodied the message of our Gold Santa Muerte. There is another blog article that states the top 5 regrets of the dying. And I've done this exercise, I've done it many, many times over the years. And I remember one year that I really wanted to travel, but I was very bogged down, weighed down by responsibility. But thinking about how death could come for me tomorrow, in an hour from now, I decided to just make the leap. And I did, right? It's like being in a small little pond and wanting to jump out into the big vast ocean, but we're afraid that we're going to suffocate. We're not going to make it. But we take the chance and we end up in a bigger, more vast experience of the gold of life. So I do have these index cards because we have a lot to cover in this video. Now, sometimes we do not receive what we think we want, and there's something better. We're being protected, right? Let me preface this video with saying that the key to this is to call on the black and gold Santa Muerte first. And I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to explain why that is. And why we want to work with and initiate with the black and gold Santa Muerte first, before really seriously petitioning the gold Santa Muerte. And again, I'm going to explain why. So this was a reason why, because sometimes we don't receive what we think we want. There's something better and we're being protected. So the gold Santa Muerte, we petition her. I want this, I want that. Give me this, give me that, right? Or can you please, please? And she'll block things. We don't receive our petition. Why? Why is she blocking? There's so many reasons why she'll block. But a big reason is this, is because it isn't correct for us. But we're so blinded by our lust, our desire, our hunger, that, and also to the mind is going by past experiences. It only knows what it has already experienced. For example, if a person is meant to live in a castle, they don't know that because they've never experienced a castle. So that might be out of the range of their scope, right? Or a person could be meant to live in a cave. Who knows? But because of society, we have all of these preconceived notions. We have programming, we have patterns that we've received from parents, from people around us, from education, schooling, who knows, everywhere, in the marketplace, from other devotees even, or devotees, right? So we all have patterns, shadows and addictions. And we have patterns and shadows and addictions when it comes to money, when it comes to prosperity, when it comes to spiritual and material abundance, and having a balance in that. And having a balance in every area of our lives. We have patterns all over the place, right? Shadows, addictions. So the gold Santa Muerte can give us money. But when we have patterns, we're like a boat with holes in the bottom, right? So we're a boat, and these patterns are like little leaks. So she gives us the money, and it just leaks out. Or she gives us the relationship, the love, the material resources, it just leaks out, right? We got to patch those holes. That's why the black and gold Santa Muerte, that's where she comes in. This is foundational work. We can have the experience of having everything materially and financially, and we must protect it from predators, right? There's predators. And so the black and gold Santa Muerte shows us where we're weak, where we have leaks, where we have openings, right? Psychic tears, auric tears, openings for predators to get in. And when we have a bright light, right? Which, I mean, the gold Santa Muerte is the sun, and we're shiny. That's attractive. It's yummies. And we have to have that foundation of protection, of the protective and predatory alchemy that we've initiated into, right? To face our shadow, all the places where we're weak, right? Where the foundation is insecure, it's not sturdy, right? It's a house of cards built on sand. That is going to need to be either knocked down and completely restarted, or the holes have to be patched. It's up to the black and gold Santa Muerte and you together. Again, yeah, we must have a solid foundation. So the gold Santa Muerte offers you a blueprint for a permanent, sturdy foundation of what is genuinely gold in all areas of your life, minus societal pressures. So be honest with yourself about why you want to have more money. Is it for pride and greed? So while yes, Santa Muerte is our loving mother who does not judge, the scales must still be balanced. Anything built on the backs of others will eventually crumble. This is for devotees and non-devotees alike, period. The scales must balance for us all. If the foundation is not solid, you can possibly lose it all, and in the most humbling way. I've seen this time and time again. And I've seen this when people have gone like 13 years, they've gone 20 years, they're thinking they're getting away with some stuff that they siphoned, they took, and then it's like, ooh. So let's talk about fantasy. A big thing with the black and gold Santa Muerte that she has us look at is fantasy. What does that mean? As I was speaking about earlier in the video, I was talking about what is correct for each person. Now, we don't know. We think we know what's correct for us, right? Right? We have this idea, we have this picture, we have this vision, and how much of that is coming from societal pressures, from what other people want from us, for us to be, right? For whatever reasons that they have. They have a vision for us. We also have programming from advertisements, right? From all over the place. And then we have competition. You know, people become competitive with one another and judge each other. Oh, well, you're only valid if I need to see the life receipts and all, right? I need to see this and that to validate, prove ourselves, validate our existence with showing the material. And I understand. The material is evidence of the spiritual power. It is evidence of discipline. It's evidence of someone who has will, right? Who takes action, who is courageous. Totally understand that. But is that always the case, though? Sometimes people have material resources because they got it in other ways, right? We know there's different cases. So a person may think that they want something, either economic or material or relational, or in a relationship, because they have a fantasy around it for one reason or another. And that thing or person could not, it's possible that it isn't even right for them, right? So this is fantasy. And we all have fantasies, right? Oh, if I had this, I want this, or if I could get this or that or that. And sometimes it's right, but a lot of times it's not. We have fantasies about the kind of housing we want to live in, about the car we want to drive. You know, even if we already have something, we may have fantasies of, you know, eat more, have more, or better, different, whatever. So the Black and Gold Santa Muerte has us look at fantasy. Why is that? Because we're talking about spiritual and material balance here. You know, and a person, we're never going to be really happy and really genuinely fulfilled and have joy in our lives when we're just living a fantasy. It's fake. And some people may say, well, that's not true. I'll take the fantasy and it'll be great. Okay, give it time before that person's miserable. And it's just this empty, gaping hole of need, right? And depression and all that other stuff. That something is going to, the bottom of something is going to fall out. Like the mental state, the emotional state, like something's going to just crash because there isn't the balance. The balance is not there. Okay? So I'm going to talk about what Lee Harris said. A couple of months ago, Lee Harris does energy updates every month. And he talked about how we're in a time where, so here's an example. Say a person wants to manifest, they want to play the piano, right? And become proficient in it. Professional. Now, normally, if they would like to reach that goal, achieve that goal, then they're going to sit down every day and they're going to practice playing the piano and they're going to hustle and they're going to move and they're going to grind and they're going to do the thing. They're going to take the action and get the results. Okay, now, that's how it normally goes for manifestation, right? You choose you want to be something, you decide, and then you go for it. Well, what's happening right now is we're able to try things on without having to become it. And this has to do with fantasy. We try it on to see, do I actually want to become that? And we try it on a little bit without having to go full force into it. Because, you know, in the past, once we go full force, we're all in. We're committed. So we can try on, like, do I like this? I'm going to try playing piano. No, I don't actually want to do that in this lifetime or with this life. I'd like to do something else. And this is what's happening in these kind of timelines where we're trying something on to see if we would like to embody it and become it and really go for it. And this is something that the Black and Gold Santa Muerte is really, really good at, is helping us cull fantasy, look at fantasy, and she'll use this technique of having us try it on first for a bit to see how we feel about it. And this will be in every area of our lives. And sometimes those of us who are really on a path of initiation and really doing this because we'd like to work with the Gold Santa Muerte and receive her deepest mysteries, right? And initiations and the balance of joy and gold in every area of our lives, then she will have us do this. And sometimes it's over the course. I mean, for me, she did this with me for a couple of years. I don't want to say a couple years, maybe longer than that, but it was a while. So I think you can do it as much as you would like. I took it really far because, I'd like to receive the fullness. When I'm on my deathbed, I'd like to know that I took it as far as I could, as far as this physical human body could handle, with the Gold Santa Muerte and all of her aspects. Because why not? But it's work. It's a lot of work. So, when we are purified by the gold solar energy and command physical resources from that place of power, money comes from a soul-aligned state. The gold Santa Muerte will cause everything less than this gold within us and in our external reality to die. It will decay, slowly or rapidly. Okay. Having everything materially will never make us permanently happy. It leaves us empty, constantly chasing the next thing. The gold Santa Muerte will have the initiating practitioner experience real suffering, like being shot, homelessness, loss, etc., so they can learn what is genuinely important and have deeper discernment. There is a difference between real suffering and unnecessary suffering. Starvation is real suffering. Unnecessary suffering is most common, and it is a curable affliction that we do to ourselves. Here are some quotes from the Fourth Way teachings that Santa Muerte would like me to share. One attracts unnecessary suffering when one accepts a lower standard. I'll read it again. One attracts unnecessary suffering when one accepts a lower standard. One more time. One attracts unnecessary suffering when one accepts a lower standard. By viewing difficult circumstances as opportunities rather than as punishment, we minimize the degree to which we suffer unnecessarily. Okay. By viewing difficult circumstances as opportunities rather than as punishment, we minimize the degree to which we suffer unnecessarily. By viewing difficult circumstances as opportunities rather than as punishment, we minimize the degree to which we suffer unnecessarily. We seek something large, but are we willing to pay for it? Awakening requires a commitment and the payment of relinquishing unnecessary suffering, as well as transforming real suffering. Again, we seek something large, but are we willing to pay for it? Awakening requires a commitment and the payment of relinquishing unnecessary suffering, as well as transforming real suffering. We seek something large, but are we willing to pay for it? Awakening requires a commitment and the payment of relinquishing unnecessary suffering, as well as transforming real suffering. And the last quote, unnecessary suffering cannot exist without one's permission. Again, unnecessary suffering cannot exist without one's permission. Unnecessary suffering cannot exist without one's permission. So I'm going to give you an example of unnecessary suffering from my own life. I was staying with a friend in her guest bedroom, and it was the middle of winter, snowing, really cold. You turn on the heat, and the home was warm, except for the room that I was staying in, because the vent was closed and it was stuck. And rather than say something, I didn't say anything for a couple of days, actually, maybe even over a week. And finally, I was so cold that I said something. And she just, got it open for me. Why couldn't I open it myself? It was stuck. So it took a little elbow grease. But my point is that's such an example of unnecessary suffering. And we do that to ourselves all the time, where we will, I know for myself, I had a past pattern where I would suffer for other people because I don't like other people to suffer, right? But I would take on their suffering for them. And basically what that's doing is taking on somebody else's karma. And then they're not learning, and it's being a helper, a people pleaser, and it's not good. So, taking on the suffering of others, that's an unnecessary suffering kind of thing. And then they don't learn what they need to learn. So that is an example of unnecessary suffering. And a lot of people, we do it all the time. So looking at those places where we're putting ourselves through unnecessary suffering, right? Sometimes too, Santa Muerte and the gold Santa Muerte and the black Santa Muerte will have us go through real suffering so that we get a balanced perspective on the difference between real suffering and unnecessary suffering, right? Like being shot is real suffering, okay? Starving is real suffering. Being very ill is real suffering. And when we go through intense real suffering, unnecessary suffering, we see it and we're much less likely to engage in it, right? It helps us to see, oh, I'm putting myself through unnecessary suffering right now, because we see the difference between the two. Yeah, so I mentioned unnecessary suffering and real suffering because the gold Santa Muerte initiates the serious practitioner to transform both and break those patterns. We call in the black and gold Santa Muerte for this purpose. She destroys patterns of entropy, impatience, pride and arrogance, disrespect, lack of integrity, dishonesty, cowardice, entitlement, and greed, among many others. So I'm not trying to put morals into this and virtue signal. However, sometimes these qualities will prevent us from becoming the solar logos and experiencing the genuine wealth of the gold altar. Death is life. Let it die. Let it die, let it die, let it die, so we can live. Because all of these things that die like this, right? We allow them to die, and layers and levels of them die. Then we have all of that energy is reclaimed. There is, I'm called to share something by a teacher. Her name is Veronica. And she channels beings called Elohim channel. And they talk about, so we have patterns of thinking, right? We have, sometimes the mind goes on a cyclical loop and we're worried. We're doubting, we're worried, we're lacking faith. So say we're worried about abundance, finances, but it could be something else. We're worried about relationships, right? Could be we're worried about our home, a career, job, business, whatever, competition. And we worry about this on a cyclical loop mentally. That wastes so much energy. And we would find, just like with these other patterns that we're talking about, right? With the entropy, the greed, the arrogance, all of entitlement, we would find that as we transmute that, we look at, say, that these worries that we're having, the doubts that we're having on the mental loop, and we face it and we transmute it, and it disappears. We will find that we have an incredible, intense, amount of energy returned to us. And so much so that we'll have to get used to having all of that energy back because it was being depleted and leaking out for so long. And we will feel this surge of energy that we'll have, and we'll have to learn how to be in a new way because this is creative energy, it's creative potential. And that will go into, we have to consciously direct that energy into a healthier, higher place. This is exactly what we're talking about because the gold Santa Muerte, when we petition her, is going to require that energy. She's going to utilize that energy to bring us what we want, to bring us the fruition of our petition. And so we don't spin out when we receive all that she has to give us, because we'll have to hold it. People are like, oh, I want this and I want that, but can they hold it without spinning out, right? So the gold Santa Muerte is solar ascension. She is about a human being becoming a solar logos. The gold Santa Muerte requires us to have, cultivate, and maintain a solid, stable, spiritual foundation first. The black and gold Santa Muerte rules the shadow underworld, bringing familiars to the practitioner that teach and train them to strengthen them in areas where they are weak. So I am to talk about my relationship with Tophthartharath now. Tophthartharath is the spirit of Mercury. They say he's the malevolent force. So there is the benevolent force and the malevolent force. I look at it in a different way, right? That's very dualistic thinking, black and white, either or. Of course, Tophthartharath has a side that is incredibly loving, completely benevolent. So Tophthartharath is a spirit, a being that the gold Santa Muerte sent to me, and I worked with him for a couple of years closely. His specialty is, if you know about Mercury, Mercury is commerce, business, money, travel, right? But also espionage. The malevolent side of this Mercury being is espionage, deception. So these would be glamours, protection, really incredible protection, magic, skills. The espionage training was absolutely brutal, which included learning vampirism. And, you know, in another video, I'll talk about this because this is more advanced, but this is the gold. Of course, this is part of the gold and black Santa Muerte that initiates into vampirism. However, the gold and purple Santa Muerte really initiates into vampirism. And there's different levels to this because if you think about it, with the gold and purple Santa Muerte, it's more, you know, knowledge and occult wisdom. There's a lot going on there. But we start with the black and gold Santa Muerte to open us up to this vampiric energy, right? And why do we do this? Because there's a lot of this whole like food chain, dog eat dog, you know, claw versus fang and claw world, right? These vampires. This is just, you know, trying to get people's energy, life force, yeah? And in order to protect the solar logos, this chi that we cultivate and shine and beacon out like the sun, which is it's bound to happen when we work with and we initiate with and we work under and we're devotees of the gold Santa Muerte. This is bound to happen. This chi and the gifts that she gives us, the realizations, has to be protected or it'll be siphoned, period. And this is what Tophthartharath came in to teach me. Now, he doesn't take a lot of, go try to find him online. You won't find much. He doesn't work with many humans. And so I feel very fortunate. But let me tell you that I've had an intense spiritual practice since I was very young. of sadhana, and I've been trained by a lot of masters from different lineages, right? Even masters from Japan that came here on a mission, that were sent here and trained me. And that's all they do, is they train, you know, people who they pick and they choose. And it's intense training. It's a daily thing that I'm there every day that I was doing. And so he worked with me, and I had a foundation first before he was able to actually work with me. And the training was exceptionally challenging. So, however, depending on what is the highest goal for your life, right? And your aim in life, that is actually correct without fantasy, right? Santa Muerte, the gold Santa Muerte, will bring familiars to you, to be on your spirit team, to train you, right? And she'll do some of the training, but she's amazing at bringing familiars, like, woof. And you'll have no doubt that they're coming for you. You'll know, you're like, oh, hey, they're just there then. You're like, oh, okay, so you're here now and we're doing this. Okay. So that's my relationship with Toft Arthurath. So honored. So to have real and lasting riches, wealth, affluence, opulence, money, and the gold energy of Santa Muerte, call on the black and gold aspect of Holy Death. She will help you create a solid foundation so the abundance doesn't drain nor leak away. And that's it. Thank you for being here with me. I have genuinely enjoyed our time together. So glad that you're here. Subscribe and stay a while, because more videos are coming. Welcome to the Gold Altar.